Jim, what did you think of Soylent Green?
I'm not going to say it's like a fantastic movie. I like it a lot, but it's definitely a movie I think everybody should see at least once. The way they depict the disgusting conditions of humanity and like society, and the way they juxtapose it with the lives of the ultra rich is really, it just makes you think a lot, even when you're watching the movie, about like all the political stuff that's going on now. And again, not to get too political with this, but it's set in the year 2022, and obviously there are some things that are absolutely crazy and ridiculous in the movie, but a lot of it isn't like that far off.
Yeah, Charlton Heston uses
today,
a payphone. We didn't point that out. He calls Cheryl on a payphone.
Yeah, or like all the cars that you see that are like burned out or broken down are all from like the 60s and 70s.
I was going to say, you don't freaking see cars. Do you ever see a car move?
No, you don't. You only see cars in like this weird, like at the beginning of it.
Yeah, because the criminal gets in a car to get hired by, and he gives him like a crowbar, which is what he kills Simonson with. But they get in a car, the car's not moving. And then,
exactly. Yeah.
And then we see the obviously the mechanized dump trucks. Like we don't see civilian vehicles. Like no. Every car we see is like owned by a business or something. You know, we don't see any individually owned cars.
Yeah, it's just a really neat movie that makes you think about your own society that you're living in. You know, and I think that's why people have kind of clung on to this movie for such a long time. And also, like, the twist in it is pretty good as well.
Yeah, and then obviously the twist... So, Charlton Heston, of course, in a couple of classic science fiction movies with twist endings. This one, the movie itself isn't as well known as Planet of the Apes, but every single person who knows about the movie knows the twist, because that's the famous line, is Soylent Green is people. That was the first thing I knew about this movie.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I had never heard of this movie, and I was watching, I don't know what network this aired on, but the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes, and that line was one of the 100 greatest movie quotes, and I had never heard of Soylent Green, and so it's like, okay, the only thing I know about Soylent Green is Charlton Heston's in it, and Soylent Green is people.
Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie, though.
But you do kind of wish you could watch it for the first time not knowing that.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Because I do think the movie, you know, there's clues. First thing we actually see in the movie proper is the Soylent Company on TV talking about. So, like, okay, so we know Soylent, there's something going on, there's something fishy. There's clues planted throughout, not necessarily that you could figure it out until the very end, but, you know, it's certainly enough to keep you invested in the mystery.
How did you like the movie, Patrick?
This movie's good. It's not. I don't think it's great. It's aged really well in some ways, and it's aged kind of poorly in others. I'm not crazy about the Charlton Heston performance.
Yeah, but also because he's pretty off-putting as a character in the movie as well.
He's not an easy character to root for, but even the performance is just, you know, it's not the best. And then, you know, next week, I already recorded this episode, but I talk about Planet of the Apes with my friend Sean, who was featured on our Godzilla Raids Again Killing American Style episode. And we talked at length about Charlton Heston as an actor, and he and I kind of had differing opinions. Charlton Heston can be very good. I think he's outstanding in the Ten Commandments. I don't think he's that great in Ben-Hur. And I'm going to put this in kind of the Ben-Hur category, where it's like, in 1973, this might have been considered a good performance, but it's just, I don't know, it hasn't aged well. I think the Edward G. Robinson performance is legitimately good. He's the most compelling actor in the movie. I kind of wish he had more screen time. No, I think the movie's aged pretty well in some of its message. Obviously, you know, New York City is not a city of 40 million people, but, you know, that kind of environmentalist, like the polluted stuff going on, like, I'm not going to say we literally see that now, but obviously climate change is a big concern for a lot of people. And then the divide of the rich and poor is obviously relevant. And I mean, it's classic science fiction where it's social commentary. It's not satire. If this were satire, this would be Jonathan Swift, because it has something in common with A Modest Proposal, obviously. But
yeah, it does. Yeah. Now, hey, I got a question for you though.
What's that?
If you had to live in this dystopian world or the dystopian world of Blade Runner, which one would you choose?
Blade Runner?
Why?
I mean, well, I guess it's difficult to give a proper answer because we only see cities in the same one city in each movie, right? But I'll say Blade Runner doesn't seem to be as miserable, does it? Like,
there's lots of colors and lights and
if it's
you can
Blade Runner
do.
2049, you can have a virtual Ana de Armas girlfriend. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine.
I don't know. I mean, Blade Runner is a much more pleasant future to live in than this. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it just made me sad actually watching this movie. I was just depressed, I guess.
But that's
watching the most of this
that's
movie.
what the movie's going for, though, too, obviously. And so I do think that's something that works well. I do like a lot of the things that they don't really go into detail on. You kind of just pick up on, like, how the church is... Rich people don't have anything to do with the church anymore, and it's because the church is just occupied by these homeless people and stuff. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The concubine thing, I don't know really the kind of the modern day, I guess. Is Simonson a sugar daddy? Is that what he is? He kind of.
You know what? That's a good question.
But I will say one thing that's kind of interesting about this movie. Obviously, we don't see a lot of Simonson. Cheryl seems to have genuine affection for him, whether or not it's in like a sexual romantic sense. She seems to like him and be genuinely upset when he's killed. And I mean, all that we see him do for her is he gets her a little video game, like an arcade video game kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and then it's like, how much is that really with Simonson? How much of that is really just Simonson enables her to live a life that she wouldn't be able to live? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter, but it's just kind of interesting. It's definitely a slow movie, and as awesome as the payoff is with the mystery, I don't know. It's kind of a simple movie too. You know what I mean? Like, there's not. I feel like we could have done some more stuff in the middle to kind of. There's no red herrings or anything. You know, it's just kind of the movie proceeds pretty straightforward.
The thing that interests me the most about the movie is the world that they're living in. It's not necessarily the plot. You know what I mean?
That's I understand perfectly well. Yeah, and I think that's fair too. But I also think, as for the world, I'm gonna bring up, was it Land of the Dead, the 2005 Romero zombie movie?
Oh yes, yeah.
That's very much about the divide between the rich and poor. This pulls that stuff off way better than that does. Like, I've seen movies try and do something like this world that just doesn't work as well as it does here. You know, some of that's the visuals, just again the green filter, just everything looks disgusting, and then a lot of that's just the I don't know, just the extras and everything. It's good. You could say this either ages it poorly or ages it well, but I'm going to comment on kind of the lack of technology in most movies. When you're making a future movie, you mentioned Blade Runner. I mentioned Blade Runner. Back to the Future Part 2 is kind of the movie that I always think of. And then like Star Trek is like, okay, a lot of those movies, they'll have like technology things and those things will come to be. Or maybe they won't, but they're kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Back to the Future Part 2, you got the hoverboard, you got... That's the only one I can think of right now. Oh, you get the mini pizza that the microwave that's just hydrates, because there's you sure can hydrate a pizza. You know, there's some stuff like that. They got the video screens, the talking screens. Back to the Future Part 2 has Zoom basically.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some other stuff, and then Blade Runner, flying cars. I guess Back to the Future Part 2 is flying cars too. Blade Runner 2049 virtual girlfriend thing.
Yeah, hologram stuff.
And of course, I'm forgetting Blade Runner robots. That's kind of the big one. Androids or whatever. I keep forgetting the important stuff. And then this movie, no real technological advancements. Notice he uses, it is a payphone, but it's also a cordless payphone. So that's pretty spicy for 1973. That's something.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, though. But I do think that makes it not age poorly, in the sense that there's nothing, you see in this 2022 that hasn't come to exist yet. Because that's like Back to the Future Part 2, flying cars. 2015 came and went, we didn't have those, and a lot of people are like, that's kind of disappointing. Like, whatever, it's kind of funny to look back, like, they thought we would have flying cars 30 years in the future. I also think Back to the Future Part 2, it's science fiction, but it's not Isaac Asimov or Philip K. Dick kind of science fiction. Like, there's not as much thought put into it as like the world of Blade Runner, I don't think. But But it is kind of like, oh, you see a payphone. Like, we don't even have those, and those have been gone for a long time. It's like, so I don't know. They don't overshoot their boundaries in terms of, they don't get too aggressive with the scientific predictions.
It remains very grounded.
It
and
remains
very
grounded. Also, with the lack of technological advancements, too, I think could point to the world of the movie is that this world is just horribly overcomplicated or horribly overpopulated, and just progress came to a halt. I think that could be the world that exists in this movie,
Yeah.
So I think it works. They don't even use cars anymore. We were talking about that. So I just think that's kind of worth noting, is kind of, if you're a science fiction fan, it's interesting to see that this isn't, a lot of movies that handle the future handle it in a very different way.